So I figured with today being Father's Day, I would actually do some Dragon Ball Z versus Marvel or Dragon Ball Z versus DC battles using fathers. I have actually had a lot of the sons have fought. Initially I was going to do Jor-El versus King Vegeta, so I did happen to have, Kal-El take on Vegeta. Then I started thinking, well actually, Bardock had his son sent into space, knowing that his planet was going to be destroyed. That really, really mirrors what you see with Jor-El. And then I was like, okay, Odin, King Vegeta. They both have incredibly powerful sons, and they both ironically end up being people who have amassed very large empires. One is the ruler of Asgard, the other was the ruler of planet Vegeta. So I'm going to actually do a double one with this one. I'll start off first with Jor-El Bardock, and then I'll go into Odin versus King Vegeta. So Jor-El, this is the brilliant scientist father to Superman. Bardock, in the original movie for Dragon Ball Z, where it was essentially the Bardock, the father of Goku, not the manga offshoot that was done. That was called the episodes of Bardock, which were part of the Dragon Ball SSS program, where they took pieces from the manga as well as a little bit of that movie, and did a whole other series where Bardock actually survived, became a Super Saiyan, and defeated what would end up being an ancestor of Frieza named Chilled. So we're removing all of that. Super Saiyan being the thing that's going to be very legendary, but then everyone becomes one. We're going to remove all of that. So we're looking at the Bardock, who had a power level of, are you sitting down? Almost 10,000. Almost 10,000. Which, at the beginning of Dragon Ball, was very impressive. Of course, he was one of the kind of low to mid-level grunts in Frieza's army, who did a very good job when it came to silencing planets, normally when it came by transforming into the giant ape and laying waste to large areas. So I'm taking essentially the low to mid-level grunt of Frieza's army versus the brilliant scientist of Jor-El. As always, I go through 9 criteria: intelligence, fighting ability, strength, speed, durability, invulnerability, energy projection, versatility, and X factor. So we'll get right into this. For Jor-El, he is a brilliant scientist. Boom. So he takes intelligence right off the bat. Fighting ability. Man, Bardock is a straight up fighter. He is just a fighter. Strength. This is one of those ones where, if you look at due to eugenics, technically Jor-El is peak human. But peak human isn't going to help him that much against a trained fighter with a power level of 10,000. I would look at peak human probably putting you below 1,000 at a power level. Probably in the 1 to 2 range. It is kind of hard to use. I think Chi-Chi ended at 300, but I wouldn't say she was at all peak human. So peak human is probably going to hit maybe 2, maybe 3 at most. So strength is still definitely going to go to Bardock. Speed. Again, I'm looking at human speed versus someone who has a much greater speed ability. Durability. How fast do you recover? This one, I'm going to actually give this one also to Bardock as well. He does have a tremendous amount of stamina. He really does know how to go through a tremendous battle. I did look into things like, what about the Kryptonian regeneration suits? While they were good at staving off, cellular damage, they weren't really great for when it came to the recovery of overall physical damage. It was great for retarding the aging process, taking care of things like cancer and things of a cellular nature, but really not things that were great for keeping the body going during intense combat situations. Invulnerability. This one, I'm actually giving this edge to Jor-El. If nothing else, when it came to people around the time of Bardock, the Saiyan armor itself, while it looked really cool, really didn't seem to hand up to almost any sort of physical damage. It seemed to break very easily. You seemed to be able to put holes through it very easily. And plus, the Saiyans at the time really didn't appear to have a tremendous amount of resiliency to anything beyond bludgeoning. Where what your average Kryptonian was wearing was something, that ended up putting them a little bit closer to kind of an armor feel to them, had a little bit in the way of force field generation, so it did have the ability to take multiple styles of damage. So I have to look at that. It's essentially looking at more or less armor with force field versus an armor that's barely better than like foam. Energy projection. Yeah, you could make the comment, well, if they fought under a yellow sun, Jor-El would begin to get abilities. He would, but it would take time for his bodies to absorb enough of the yellow solar radiation to actually produce any of his abilities. And it'll still take us some time to actually get used to them. I will use Man of Steel as a reference point to show that, when people initially get their abilities, there's a lot of things they have to try to control really quickly. And I don't think that, Jor-El would have the actual amount of time to go through, process, and figure out all the abilities while he's in the middle of combat. So I would still therefore end up giving, energy projection is definitely going to end up being something that's going to fall under Bardock. Versatility. This one, you could kind of look at either direction. I'm looking at, the severe scientific abilities, which are great to have if you have any amount of time to really think through a process. This is going to be a very brutal, very quick battle. So versatility is going to come down to pretty much every single move that Bardock has at his disposal. He's going to have a lot. He is a straight run and gun sort of character. And then the X Factor. Whatever sort of thing doesn't quite figure in the rest, that's going to go to Jor-El. And that's going to come down to his scientific background. Can he figure something out while the force field's running? Do something to kind of give him some sort of a slight edge. So in this battle, if these two were to fight, it's 6-3. You do have someone who is a scientist, more of a pacifist, doesn't have a tremendous amount of physical training, and they put it in him in like the regular Kryptonian style gear. Not put him inside a war suit or anything. And I'm not making him out what they did in Man of Steel for Jor-El. I'm not making him essentially a fighter. He is a scientist. So you got a scientist with the technology he has on him taking on essentially a low to mid-level grunt who's known for conquering planets. And this, very, very likely, Bardock is going to stop a hole through Jor-El. Of course, if you were taking on someone like General Zod, it's a whole different ballgame. Because then you have someone who's military versus someone who's military. Might do that fight potentially in the future. Don't quite know. So now moving now, we have Odin. Odin in the Marvel Universe essentially is the same thing as the Norse god Odin. He is the person who is the ruler of Asgard. Played masterfully by Anthony Hopkins. And he was also played by Kevin Nash in, I think, the Almighty Thor, the sci-fi original knockoff that came out at the same time as Marvel's Thor did. Versus King Vegeta. King Vegeta, power level slightly above 10,000. I know, this is when you look at the power levels of, like around the 10,000 range and you could pretty much control a planet. But then once you hit, almost 1 million, you can nuke a planet pretty easily. That's kind of what you're looking at. So King Vegeta did a really good job when it came to conquering and ruling. He was one of the upper caste when it came to Frieza's army. He made the mistake of actually trying to fight Frieza. And Frieza dodged his punch and then killed him in one shot. So I'm looking at Thor, Thor's father, Odin, the Norse god, and King of Vegeta, the ruler of the planet Vegeta, which I think before was called Planet Plant. Moved to Vegeta, because Vegeta was short for vegetables. That's from lots of the Saiyans had vegetable-related names. Vegeta, Kakarot, Raditz, Nappa, you get the picture. So same scenario. You have your intelligence, fighting ability, strength, speed, durability, invulnerability, energy projection, versatility, and X Factor. So we'll hit right into this one. Who's more intelligent? The virtually immortal Odin, King Vegeta. That's Odin. Who has better fighting ability? This one I actually went back and forth on because King Vegeta was someone who has approximately about 700 years of experience. He was 737 years old when he died. So he's got about 700 years of combat experience versus thousands of years of combat experience. And I was like, Had to look at overall skill sets as well as their overall fight acclimate and then trace that back to the amount of experience that they actually have. And if I were going to just go on raw fighting ability and not actually have that experience portion, like the Tekken 2 when they're really close, this could go to King Vegeta. But I'm looking at thousands of years worth of experience versus 700 years worth of experience at best. That's going to go to Odin. Strength. This is kind of a weird one because, ironically, Odin, normally, according to Marvel, is very easily at the 60-ton range, which doesn't sound like much. He actually can jack that up to, I think it's about 150 to 200 ton, if he really wants to, but his normal base is 60 ton. That makes him a pretty hard hitter. Now, had King Vegeta been someone significantly higher than about, he's like 10, 11,000, I could probably see him maybe being, in the couple of ton range. Even if you were to say power level equal pounds, he is at like the 5-ton range. Impressive for where he was in the grand scale of the story, but not impressive for he was at 60. So strength, I'm going to give that also to Odin. Speed. Odin does have some speed, however, he is significantly larger as an individual. I think he's normally rated at, I've got one of his stats up here. Where's my physical stats at? Yeah, he's about 7 foot tall, 700 pounds. And he's very, very much on the older side. So I'm going to give King Vegeta actually a speed advantage here. If anything, he's going to have youth and he's going to have more maneuverability. He also has things that are slightly more speed related than what you see Odin. The people that Odin are fighting, they're really not speedsters. Odin is a large dude who normally fights large dudes. He's got the age, he's got the experience. He knows he doesn't really need to match speed with most enemies because he's going to be able to beat them down regardless of their overall speed. Let me click back to my spreadsheet. Durability. This is one of those bizarre moments where, a Saiyan essentially doesn't really have any true regenerative abilities. They can recover very fast when it comes to combat, but they don't have true regenerative capabilities like you see in the virtual immortal that is Odin. Odin has actually been registered as saying that you have to pretty much break him down at a molecular, you have to break the molecular bonds that help hold some of his cells together to therefore impede the magical abilities that are inherent to as guardians for comes to wound regeneration. Yeah, so you pretty much have to almost beat him to the molecular level in order to have him not recover from wounds. That's impressive. That is some wound recovery right there. Invulnerability. How well are you at blocking and absorbing damage? So I look at someone who's wearing armor that looks cool, isn't very efficient, versus somebody who is wearing the best armor that can be forged by the gods and is also a god. Well, that's Odin. Odin has ridiculous high amounts of invulnerability. Energy projection. King Vegeta, tremendous amount of key-related abilities. So I'm looking at, who has the biggest bang for their buck. Look at someone who has a beam that can kill most lower enemies versus the Odin Blast. The Odin Blast, when channeled by Thor, was able to hurt Ego. Ego is a living planet that was actually able to scare Galactus. And that was Thor channeling the Odin Force. When Odin channels it, it's pretty much whatever he wants it to be. It is almost like the Omegas. It's the Omega beams of the Marvel Universe. And it's what he can do. If you want, he can tear a hole in time and space. That's how powerful he can be with that attack. He doesn't do it that way because he doesn't need to, but he has the ability to do such. Versatility. This one again is going to go to Odin. Odin has the ability not only to wield arcane abilities and arcane spells, he also has the ability to wield cosmic energy. So what he can do is virtually off the charts as to what he has the capability of doing. And then X Factor. This again is going to go to Odin. Odin has got so much experience, so much knowledge. And if things start to go south, he actually can channel the life force of Asgardians into himself to make him even more powerful. So we'll say King Vegeta happens to go into the large monkey form, or the great ape form. He's going to be significantly more powerful. He's also going to be a lot slower. Taking on somebody who is used to taking on a very large, powerful individual. And if he even remotely gets Odin kind of on the back, kind of on the fence, Odin can actually begin to channel the life force of every Asgardian into himself. So when you fight someone like Odin, you don't just fight him, you fight every living Asgard at the exact same time. He has the ability to pull from all of them. So you're not just fighting Odin, it could be Odin and Thor, and he's pulling the life force from the Thor. So he's pulling the abilities from another god to buffet and hedge his own abilities. That's power. That is raw, ridiculous, unbridled, naked power. And he would easily, Frieza, one punch, killed King Vegeta. There's very, very few reasons why I don't see Odin doing the exact same thing.